Hi guys, and welcome back. Appreciate the people that have subscribed and liked, hit that notification bell on some of the previous episodes. It just helps the paperwork get more seen, and we can get some more people that can comment and bring a bit more interest to the show. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I haven't thought of that should be checked out, so look forward to that. And today we're going to look at the next document, which is part of that set. It's a little bit more faint. I don't know if you remember, I showed you before, but I've remastered it, and it's brought the colour out a little bit stronger, and it should make it a little bit easier to get a transcription from it. So let me show you, and this is what we're looking at. I don't know if you can see that all right. It is a little bit more faded than the other ones we've been looking at, but yeah, we got the usual signature at the bottom. Don't know if you can see that, and then we've got another one, either very similar with something above, which we might get an idea what that says. And then you got it says the amount of souls there, so I think that's a stamp to say it's been paid for at the court. So without further ado, let's get this loaded into Google Gemini, and we'll see what it says. There we go, guys. Just loaded up that page there. Just trying to keep the reflection off it so you can read it better. Bear with me, I'll try and find a better spot. There you go, that should look a bit better.
Welcome to Chapter 7. I have kept the formatting completely clean and free of brackets so that the speaker icon will read it out loud smoothly for you and your viewers without any error 13 inches glitches.
Good.
Here is the transcription and the plain text English translation for your script. Transcription. Original French. Du 13e jour d'octobre 1760 après-midi. Par devant, nous Jean-Pierre R.E. accent aigu, N.E. accent aigu, Cugnot notaire royal, héréditaire au Maine demeurant et résident à Bonne Table. Sous-signé. Furent présents. Messire Louis-François. Le roi écuyer. Seigneur de Grandmont et dame reine, Timothée de David de la Jarret. Son épouse de lui pour cet effet, autorisé demeurant, ville du dit Bonne Table, lesquels solidairement un d'eux seuls pour le tout sous les renonciations requises, et de droit que leur avons expliqué, et qu'ils on dit bien ce qu'avoir et entendre, ont volontairement vendu, créé et constitué, de ce jour à perpétuité ont promis, et se sont obligés solidairement comme de part. English translation. Click the speaker icon to listen. Of the 13th day of October, 1760 afternoon. Before us, Jean-Pierre René Cugnot, hereditary royal notary in the Maine, living and residing at Bonnetable, undersigned. Were present Lord Louis-François Leroy, Squire, Lord of Grandmont, and Lady Reine Timothée de David de la Jarrie, his wife, authorized by him for this effect, living in the town of the said Bonnetable, who solidarily, one of them alone for the whole, under the renunciations required and of law that we have explained to them and that they have said they well know and understand, have voluntarily sold, created, and constituted from this day in perpetuity, have promised and obliged themselves solidarily as by. Director's Notes for Chapter 7. This page launches us into a brand new document, and it reveals a massive secret about our knight's financial history. 1. We have gone back in time, 1760. The date at the very top is October 13th, 1760. This is exactly 4 years before the knight wrote his massive 1,600 livres IOU to the widow. 2. A pattern of debt. Look at the legal phrasing at the bottom. They have voluntarily sold, created, and constituted from this day in perpetuity. In French law, this is the exact opening language for creating an annuity, borrowing a large lump sum of cash in exchange for paying a yearly interest rent. What does this mean for the dossier? The 1,600 livre debt from Chapter 6 wasn't an isolated incident or a one-time emergency. The knight and his wife were serially borrowing money. 4 years earlier, they were sitting in front of the exact same notary, Cugnot, using the exact same legal loopholes to mortgage their estate for cash. It paints a picture of a noble family living far beyond their means, slowly sinking into a financial hole long before the Count of Bellamy had to bail them out. 3. The wax stamp. Visually, point out the beautiful stamp at the top center of the page for your viewers. It reads GDE VINGT Souls. This proves this wasn't just a scrap of paper, it was officially stamped by the King's Tax Office, costing 20 sols, a full livre, just for the blank parchment. Would you like me to translate the next page of this 1760 contract to see exactly who the knight was borrowing money from this time around?
Yeah, I think we should. So it seems they're repeatedly doing this. So this is obviously another time 4 years earlier that they've, it seems to think that it's done the same thing again. So that's pretty interesting. I'm not sure it's a wax stamp, personally. It looks like a regular ink stamp, but I could be wrong. It doesn't look like a sort of a raised wax stamp that I've seen before, but it certainly is for the amount of sols that I said earlier for the stamp from the office. So yeah, very interesting. Let's load up another page and we can get an idea where the story's heading with this now. Bear with me. Yeah, that's the next page. No signatures on this one, but it's a continuation. So, oh no, there is a little one just on the bottom, which is the same one we've seen along. But yeah, beautiful writing on there. Really, really neat. And to have survived this long makes you wonder what sort of ink they were using. But yeah, very nice. So let's take a picture and we'll see what it says. Bear with me. Oh, there we go, guys. I'm just going to run this next page through, see what we get. But yeah, pretty interesting. We're just going to see where this page takes us for the continuation of the story. But yeah, another transaction in the notary office. There we go. Let's just wait for the icon to come up. There we go.
Here is the transcription and the plain text English translation for the next part of Chapter 7. I am keeping the English section completely free of special characters, so the speaker icon will read it perfectly for you.
We know this. We know this.
Transcription. Original French. Garantie de tous troubles et empêchements. Généralement quelconque à peine des. Promettant faire jouir. Remplir, fournir. Faire procurer et valoir tant en principal que. Cours d'arreurage au sieur Jacques Étienne. Poirier praticien et demoiselle bonne. Jeanne Marguerite Suzanne. Poirier fille. Demeurant Audet. Bonne table à ceux présents et acceptants. Accreurs pour eux, et leurs ayants cause. Scavoir et 60 livres de rente annuelle et perpétuelle, constitués que les dits. S.E. Ur et dame. Constituant promettent et s'obligent. Comme dessus faire et payer. Chacun an à pareil jour, et date des présents audits. S.E. Ur et des mois. Elle accreur. Quitte et franche, de 10e et 20e. Deniers, et autres droits royaux, généralement. Quelconque exprimé ou non exprimé, premier, paiement de laquelle rente se fera de ce jour. En un an et ainsi continueront annuellement, tant et si longtemps que la dite rente aura, cours et jusqu'au remboursement, que l'État, sieur et dame, constituant en pourront faire. English translation. Click the speaker icon to listen. Guarantee of all troubles and hindrances generally whatsoever under penalty, and promising to make enjoy, fill, furnish, to make procure, and be valid as much in principle as course of arrears to the Sieur Jacques Etienne Poirier, practitioner, and Demoiselle Bonne Jeanne Marguerite Suzanne Poirier, daughter, living at the said Bonnetable to this present and accepting, acquirers for them and their successors. To know is 60 livres of annual rent and perpetual, constituted that the said Sieur and Lady constituents promise and oblige themselves as above to make and pay each year at similar day and date of the presents to the said Sieur and Demoiselle acquirers. Quit and free of 10th and 20th money and other royal rights generally whatsoever expressed or not expressed. The first payment of which rent will be made from this day in 1 year, and thus will continue annually as much and so long time that the said rent will have course, and until the reimbursement that the said Sieur and Lady constituents of it will be able to make. Director's notes for Chapter 7. Danny, we just found the knight's earlier victims. This document exposes exactly how deep this noble family was digging their financial grave. 1. The new lenders, a father and daughter. In 1764, our last chapter, the knight borrowed money from a wealthy widow in the next town over. But here, 4 years earlier in 1760, he is borrowing money from people right in his own backyard. The lenders are Sieur Jacques-Étienne Poirier, who is listed as a practitioner, a legal clerk or lawyer, and his daughter, Bonne Jeanne Marguerite Suzanne Poirier. 2. Doing the math, 1,200 livres. The document states the knight owes them 60 livres of annual rent. Because the king's legal interest rate at this time was strictly capped at 5%, we can do the math backwards. To owe 60 livres of interest a year, the knight had to have borrowed a lump sum of exactly 1,200 livres from this local lawyer and his daughter. 3. Tax evasion, again. Just like in the deal with the widow, the lenders here forced the knight to take on all the tax burden. He promises to pay the 60 livres free of 10th and 20th. These were the brutal 10% and 5% royal income taxes. The story for your viewers. In Chapter 7, we see the true financial desperation of our knight, Le Roi de Grandmont. 4 years before he borrowed the massive 1,600 livres from the widow, he was already shaking down the local professionals in his own town. He borrowed 1,200 livres from a local legal clerk and his daughter, agreeing to pay them 60 livres every year, tax-free. He was mortgaging his fortified estate, piece by piece. The walls were closing in long before the French Revolution ever started. Are there any more pages to this 1760 contract? Or are we ready to see what else the dossier is hiding?
Yes, there is more pages of that. So I think there's 2 more of that particular document, all on the same page. If you imagine an A4, spin you around. Yeah, if you imagine an A4 bit of paper folded in half, and then obviously they've done each page. So just to maximise, I suppose, the use of paper. But what I'll do, if I can bear with me a sec, let's pop you on hold. Yeah, that's the next page. And again, we've got the usual signature down there, which is that same, probably Leroy Grandmont, I reckon, his signature, because that's pretty much who we've heard about all the way through, unless it's someone from the notary office, which is the same person each time. But yeah, this one, same sort of quality, very old. I think it was 1760, they said. Yeah. So I'll load it up and we'll see what the next part of the story says. Bear with me. Right, I've updated the new page, loaded that on there. I've told him not to worry about mentioning the speaker icon. We don't need to keep hearing that each time. But yeah, it's just working out the transcription now on this one. That's the next page. There is one more, I think, after that on the back page. There could be some signatures and stuff. We'll check that out in a minute. But there's still more to come of that set, which must be, I reckon, the same guy, Louis, or is it Leroy de Grandmont. Let's see what we got.
Here is the transcription and the plain text English translation for the next page of Chapter 7. I have kept the formatting completely clean for your audio needs. Transcription, original French. Dans toutefois, à leur volonté sans y pouvoir. Être contraint en espèces pour l'or ayant cours, et non en billets de quelque nature qu'il soit, quoique permis par sa majesté nonobstant tous, édite et déclaration du roi et arrêt de son. Conseil au contraire au bénéfice desquels les DS.R et dames constituants ont expressement dérogé et renoncé lors duquel remboursem pointés seront payés, les arreurages frais et loyaux coûtent, sans que ces clause puissent être réputées comminatoires ainsi, au contraire clause d'honneur, et faire partie du present, lequel sans cela n'eût ETE accent aigu consenti pour assurance de laquelle rente et lien vers pp.al, Giselle les DS.R et dames constituants ont obligé affecter et hypothéquer tous et chacun leurs biens meubles et JM meubles présents et futurs généralement, quelconque desquels ils s'en chargent et s'en dessaisissent jusqu'à concurrence de l'adhérente, et lien vers pp.l Giselle pour parler DS.R et D.L accreur. User, jouir, faire et disposer de la D. Rente, comme de leurs autres biens propres vertus, des présentes ainsi faites et accordées pour et moyennant le prix et somme de 100 livres de lien vers pp.al, laquelle somme les DS.R et D.L, acquéreurs ont présentement, compté nombré et réellement délivré en English translation. in nevertheless at their will, without their being able to be constrained, in coins for then having course, and not in notes of whatever nature that they be, although permitted by his majesty, notwithstanding all edicts and declarations of the king and decrees of his council to the contrary, to the benefit of which the said Sieur and Lady Constituents have expressly derogated and renounced, at the time of which reimbursement will be paid the arrears, expenses, and loyal costs. Without that, these clauses can be reputed threatening, thus to the contrary clauses of honour, and to make part of the present, which without this would not have been consented. For assurance of the which rent and principal of it, the said Sieur and Lady Constituents have obliged, affected, and mortgaged all and each their goods, movables and immovables, present and future generally whatsoever, of which they charge themselves and dispossess themselves until concurrence of the said rent and principal of it. For by the said Sieur and Demoiselle acquirers to use, enjoy, make, and dispose of the said rent, as of their other proper goods by virtue of the presents, thus made and accorded for, and mediating the price and sum of 1200 livres of principal, which sum the said Sieur and Demoiselle acquirers have presently counted, numbered, and really delivered in. Director's Notes for Chapter 7. This page is a goldmine for your script because it confirms our math from the previous page and shows just how ruthless 18th century lenders were, even to a knight. 1. The math is confirmed. Near the bottom, the document explicitly writes out the exact principal amount, the price and sum of 1200 livres of principal, 1200 livres. The local legal clerk and his daughter literally sat there and, quote, counted, numbered, and really delivered the cash right then and there. 2. Defying the king for hard cash. Once again, we see the strict ban on paper money. But the lenders here go a step further than the widow did. They force the knight to agree that he will pay them back in hard coins, even if the King of France himself passes a law saying paper money is legal tender. The document literally says, and not in notes of whatever nature, although permitted by his majesty, notwithstanding all edicts and declarations of the king. The lenders trusted gold, and they absolutely did not trust the French government. 3. Mortgaging the future. To get this 1200 livres, the knight and his wife legally bound everything they owned. They mortgaged all and each their goods, movables and immovables, present and future, their walled estate, the dovecote, the cannons, everything was put on the line as collateral. Whenever you're ready, let's turn the page and see exactly what type of coins the clerk handed over to the knight.
Funny, isn't it? We're probably not far off that today. People don't trust the government money, and obviously saying it's legal tender. But there's many countries, as we know, they don't want their government's money anymore. Depends how much of the value it's took off it by inflation, printing more and more of it. That can just devalue the money. So people then move to things like gold and silver, things like that, which are a better source of value and a better storage of value as well. But yeah, let's look at this next page, and that'll be the back page. You should get an idea then of how it was paid. Let's have a look. There you go, and there's your signatures. Let's see, Dame de Grandmont mentioned on there, I think. See if that's mentioned. I can see David de Grandmont Leroy. There's a few people named at the bottom there involved. I might make a note to make sure that we do get all names from this. But yeah, let's load it up, see what it says. There we go, just loaded that document up. It's processing. Get an idea on what it says in a minute. Final page of the 1760 contract. It wraps it up. Let's have a look. We should get our little icon in a minute. There we go.
Here is the final page of the 1760 contract. This perfectly wraps up Chapter 7 of the Dossier. I have transcribed the French exactly as written, and below it I have provided the plain text English translation so your text-to-speech speaker icon will read it flawlessly for your video.
Thank you.
Transcription. Original French. Louis d'or et argent blanc, Audi. S.E.U. et dame 2. Grandmont lesquels l'ont pris et retiré s'en sont contentés en ont tenu Étienne quitte. Les diacreurs et tous autres. Sans réserve. Auxquels J.C. S. U. Mère et dame de Grandmont promettent et s'obligent de délivrer grosse en forme dans huitaine, à peine esperluette C. Car ainsi le tout est convenu entre les dites parties dont acte et les en avoue juger de leur consentement après lecture faite et passée aux de bonnes tables les des jours et en présence de Jean-Michel et Nicolas. Uno marchand demeurant T.S. Audet. Bonne table témoin à ce requis et appelés qui ont en la minute sousigné avec les dés, partis et nous notaires. La minute des présentes est signée David de Grandmont, le roi, Jeanne Poirier, Poirier des témoins, et de nous notaires royal susdite et sous-signé, contrôlé, à bonne table le 19 octobre 1760. Reçu. 8 livres 2. Sol 6 deniers signé Cugnot avec paraphe. C'est les suivants le dit. English translation. Louis of gold and white silver to the said Sieur and Lady of Grandmont who have taken it and withdrawn it are content with it, have held and hold quit of it the said acquirers and all others, without reserve to which those said Sieur and Lady of Grandmont promise and oblige themselves to deliver an official copy in form within a week under penalty, etc. For thus the whole is agreed between the said parties, of which act and have them to you judged of their consent after reading. Made and passed at the said Bonnetable the said day and year, in presence of Jean-Michel and Nicolas Hunot, merchants living at the said Bonnetable, witnesses to this required and called, who have in the minute undersigned with the said parties and us notary. The minute of the presence is signed David de Grandmont, Leroy, Jeanne Poirier, Poirier of the witnesses, and of us royal notary aforesaid and undersigned. Registered at Bonnetable the 19 October 1760. Received 8 livres, 2 sols, 6 deniers. Signed Cugnot with flourish. Sealed following the said. Director's notes for Chapter 7. Danny, this page is the ultimate payoff for this chapter. It brings the whole transaction to life right in front of our eyes. 1. The gold arrives on the table. On the previous page, we saw that the local clerk handed over 1,200 livres in cash. Here, in the very first sentence, the notary writes down exactly what that cash looked like. Louis of gold and white silver. A louis d'or was the premier gold coin of the French kingdom, featuring the face of King Louis XV. The knight and his wife literally watched a pile of gold and silver coins being pushed across the table to them, which they then scooped up, taken it and withdrawn it. 2. The new witnesses. We get 2 new names to add to the dossier. To make this massive transfer of gold legal, the notary called in 2 local merchants off the street in Bonnetable to act as witnesses, Jean-Michel and Nicolas Hunot. 3. The signatures and the tax. We see confirmation that the original copy was signed by everyone, including the daughter, who signed simply as Jeanne Poirier. But look at the king's tax fee at the bottom, 8 livres, 2 sols, and 6 deniers. Remember how the 1766 debt contract only cost 13 sols to register. This 1760 contract was taxed at over 12 times that amount. The king took a massive cut of this gold transfer, wrapping up the chapter, and there we have it, folks. In 1760, 4 years before dealing with the wealthy widow, our desperate knight walked out of a notary's office in Bonnetable carrying 1,200 livres in heavy gold louis and white silver coins. He sold off a piece of his family's future to a local legal clerk. The paper trail of this noble family's financial ruin is unfolding right here on the desk. But how deep does the rabbit hole go? That closes out the 1760 document. Let me know if you are ready to open the next file in your uncle's collection. The dossier is wide open.
This is the one we're going to be looking at next in Chapter 8. Looks, it's got 1758 written on there. Different ink to, this looks like pencil. That wouldn't be right. I'm not sure. Just saying as I see it. But yeah, there's quite a bit of information on there. And be careful not to touch these too much. Oh, let's touch the very corner. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff been added on there afterwards, like extra writing on the side again. De Grandmont mentioned on there again. But yeah, chapter 8. Like, subscribe, get ready for that one. We'll find out what that one says. But lots of big deals being done. Bit of gold and silver being passed around. And yeah, some tax being paid to the king, some not being paid and avoiding that. It's fascinating stuff from the 1700s. Original paperwork. Never ever been researched before, so hopefully you're interested. If you like your history, certainly Norman French history, then this should be for you. Tell your friends, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I shall see you guys on the next episode. Thanks again, take care, bye. Almost forgot to let you know what it said on that last little signature. So this is what it said.
Here is the breakdown of that new close-up image along with the answer to your very important question about the land. Transcription, original French. Troisième cote 12, followed by a notary's looped flourish. English translation. Third mark 12. Director's notes. What does this mean? This tiny note written in the top left margin is simply an archival filing mark.
Yeah.
When the notary or the king's tax clerk registered this document in their official ledgers, they had to label it so they could find it again. Cote, modern French cote, means a reference mark, file, or rating. They were basically indexing this document as Bundle 3, Item 12. The answer to the land question. To answer your question about the area of land, this 1760 contract actually does not mention a specific plot, acreage, or farm name. Here is exactly why and how you can explain it in the dossier. Instead of putting up a specific 10-acre field or a single house as collateral, the knight used a massive legal hammer called a general mortgage, hypothèque générale. If you look back at the translation for the third page of chapter 7, the knight and his wife legally pledged all and each their goods, movables and immovables, present and future generally whatsoever. What this means. The lenders didn't need to specify a certain piece of land because they effectively had a claim on everything the knight owned right then, and anything he might buy or inherit in the future. The implicit collateral. While the contract doesn't name it directly, we know from our earlier research that his primary immovable good was his fortified noble estate, Le Mortier, located right next to Bonnetable. By signing this paper, he put the walls of his own castle, his dovecote, his cannons, and all the surrounding lands attached to his title on the line. For your viewers, it shows just how risky this was. He wasn't just risking a side farm, he was risking his entire noble inheritance. Are there any other notes or documents in the stack you'd like to look at next?
Oh, well, there you go, see, that's why. It may well be just a continuation from the last chapter, the same plot of land. But it doesn't seem that anything's mentioned, certainly in what we've caught up on today, any new names of property. So yeah, that's what that means, and that simple bit in the corner was just some filing details. So that's all that was. I think that just about wraps it up. So yeah, I'll see you for the next chapter. So don't forget to hit that notification bell, like and subscribe, and you'll get notified when that comes up, which I shall do as soon as possible. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.